Good evening to all you sane people across the planet. This is Paul Elam, and welcome to A Voice for Men News and Activism with co-host James Huff. James, how the hell are you tonight?
Oh, I feel great. How are you today?
Well, I'm running late. But no, wait a minute. That's not a feeling. Gosh, I forgot. Sorry, guy. I'm a guy. I have no feelings. So
That's
I've been
right.
told.
That's right.
But
we are not entitled to those.
No, but I'm doing good. It's a good day to be an MRA. Can't complain too much. Folks, we'll have a little bit later on in this broadcast, we will hopefully have Jack Barnes. We've got him on standby waiting to get in. And we're going to be talking a little bit, or actually quite a bit, about ClementineFord.com. But first, we have news stories. And for that, I turn it over to our news guy to get us rolling, Mr. Huff.
Yes, sir. This is coming out of the mrctv.org blog here. Ashley Ray Goldenberg writes, University won't recognize men's issues group after feminists say it makes women feel unsafe. We probably already know where this university is. It's probably Ryerson University. Oh, look, I was right.
You don't say.
Oh, imagine that. Ryerson University has denied the final appeal to recognize a student group dedicated to addressing issues impacting men because feminists say its existence does not promote equality and would make women feel unsafe. Ryerson's independent student newspaper, The Eye Opener, reports the Ryerson Students' Union has rejected the last appeal to have the school sanction the Men's Issue Awareness Society. According to the group's president, Kevin Arola, the point of the group is to raise issues that have never been talked about or usually disregarded. The group has received a major opposition from the school's feminist collective. In November, the Ryerson Feminist Collective organizer Arunzu Najibada called the idea of the group horrifying.
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 I think it's just horrifying. I don't see the benefit of having them on campus. Allison Rogers, another feminist collective organizer, said the group's connection with the Canadian Association for Equality has made women claim that they don't feel safe on their campus and they don't want to come to their classes. Oh, wow.
Horrifying.
Horrifying. Obviously, it's about the money. It's got to be about the money, Paul. It's the only thing I could think of.
Well, there's the
because
money.
If it wasn't about the money, and then Ryerson administration would put its foot down. But it's about the money.
Yep.
Because all these unsafe people scream at the top of their little lungs all day and all night. I feel so unsafe. You know what most people do who feel unsafe? You know what they usually do? They usually go find a quiet corner, they sit down and they shut the fuck up and hope that the big bad whatever it is just passes them by. These people don't feel unsafe. These people are the most entitled bitches ever seen on this planet. And this is how they control the narrative and keep their power, folks.
There is no doubt about that. Wow. It is absolutely difficult to know how to respond to anybody that won't go to class. Well, except with this group, you might as well not fucking go to class because you're not learning anything anyway. But I wonder, do they have, I'm not looking at the article, James. Do they have anybody stepping up to saying, I fill in the blank, I'm afraid to go to classes if there's a men's issues group?
No.
Um, well, Ryerson, as we all know, has a long and illustrious history dating back to 2012 anyway, of refusing to even entertain the idea of men's issues group on campus. And they, in fact, when that was started after 3 of their students saw what happened at the University of Toronto with the Warren Farrell lecture and the violent protest there by feminists, they were so disgusted by that protest that they decided they wanted to start a men's issues group at Ryerson. Ryerson preemptively, their student union preemptively declared that any attempt to establish a men's rights group or a men's issues group was in and of itself, by merely existing, in fact, misogynistic and against the rights of women. In other words, horrifying.
Horrifying.
Horrifying. So they nixed that in the bud, and people have continued to attempt to do so. And man, I tell you, I don't know what to say. If cafe scares you, you better run
God.
when we send somebody.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. just wait till Paul walks through the door. Holy crap!
Man,
he's got to bend down to get through the door.
Oh man, yeah. This is more of the same. We have an orthodoxy established at universities like Ryerson. Gosh, hang on. I've got to interrupt the story. We are having difficulty getting Jack Barnes on here, and so since I can't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time, I'm going to have to actually pause my commentary to send Jack another invite, which I have just done.
Okay.
If you see that, Jack, I'm telling him it's done.
There he is.
Ah, finally.
Oh, man.
Okay.
And you can unmute, Jack.
Okay.
Horrifying!
Horrifying! I'm glad to see you. It's been a while. It's been a while since you've been on AVFM radio.
Yes, it has. Yes. Are we live?
We are live.
We're live.
We are live, and we're doing our regular fucking their shit up. So,
Oh, good deal. Good deal.
And we were just in the middle of a news story, Jack, which you're welcome to chime in on Ryerson University and their latest successful ploy by the University Students Union to prevent a men's issues group from forming at that university because, as one of their members put it, if they did so, it would be horrifying.
Horrifying!
Dear
this was
God.
the last appeal, folks. Just to let you know, this has slammed the door on any hope for Ryerson.
Well, I kind of like the way Paul put it in last week's show. Let's send them a bunch of bulldozers because that's what that place needs. What the students need to do is they need to form their own men's issues group outside of campus and tell the college to go fuck themselves. We're going to do it any damn way.
Yeah, and they can do that, and there's nothing the college can do except start doing the same shit that you see so many other places do, and penalizing the students through their performance records and their grades, and through calling them up into disciplinary reviews.
There's also the option of suing the university administration.
They could, but you have to understand that this is going through the Ryerson Students Union. They can't sue the administration without running across a serious legal block where it gets kicked back and they say you have to sue the student union.
Well, I would sue the student union then, but I would go ahead and also name the university administration in the lawsuit. They are ultimately responsible for what happens on that campus. And if one of their groups that is sanctioned by administration, which the student union is allowed to violate Canadian law by prohibiting a group forming on the basis of sex, then they will, I think, ultimately be found liable for it.
The student union can just as easily put up a countersuit, and the administration is too chicken shit to get involved.
Okay, fuck it. Let's get the bulldozers in. Sure.
Yeah, that's what we need is the bulldozer. I'm not trying to rain on everybody's parade here, but you got to understand that these student unions up in Canada are a lot more powerful than any student unions here in the U.S.
Well, what can they countersue with? What can they claim?
What can the Ryerson Student Union do if the administration steps on their toes? They can cite a breach of contract.
Oh, but that wouldn't be a countersuit. That would be a suit against the administration, not a countersuit against the plaintiffs in the discrimination suit against the student union and against the university.
Right, which is still why the university would not lift a finger. And it would also be their defense, is to, once again, kick it back to the Ryerson Student Union, which would kick them off the docket. Because it could be a breach of contract for the administration to get involved in whatever groups the Ryerson Student Union says can and can't be there.
You know,
these student unions are entrenched in power in these universities. The administrators might as well just be asshats with thumbs up their asses for as much power as what these student unions have. I'm not kidding. These student unions run the show.
I would be willing to bet you that if this happened, if we went through this legal, or they went through this legal process, suing and countersuing all that, I bet you a group of feminists would get together and sue the university, saying for breach of contract because they failed to provide a safe learning environment.
They could try.
They would threaten that this makes the campus unsafe.
And this is why you're going to find the school administration in lockstep with the student union.
Well, for that reason, I say all the more reason that I believe just bring the lawyers, let them all sort it out after they spent a ton of money, and also whatever location the student union is in, we could save a lot of money and expense by just with one bulldozer to that building. But I agree with you. I mean, it's a sticky, complicated mess, and a students' union that scares the administration. Wow. I thought it was bad here. Every time I think it's bad here, all I got to do is look north, man.
Yeah, really. That's all you got to do. And it's almost as bad here. It really is. But look, we do have some good news. Good news.
I like good news.
Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and move on to that. This is coming out of the Washington Examiner. Georgia legislator says, adopt due process protections or forget about your budget. A Georgia legislator responsible for appropriating state funds to colleges and universities is threatening to halt budget decisions with his state's schools unless they adopt basic due process protections for accused students. State Representative Earl Earhart, chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Higher Education, told college presidents in no uncertain terms to adopt such protections. Quote, "Do you think you've got an issue with federal bureaucrats threatening your federal funds?" Earhart said at the close of a hearing on due process. "This committee controls your funds, Mr. President, and I want to see a clear statement from all of you, beyond what the Board of Regents is requiring, before I'm even going to have a conversation with you about your budgets, presidents," talking to the presidents of the universities. Earhart said he wouldn't even talk to college presidents until they adopt simple, basic due process protections. If you don't protect the students of this state with due process, don't come looking for money. Earhart added. This is the clearest declaration by any legislator in the country regarding the protection of due process rights for students accused of misconduct on college campuses. The hearing on Monday focused on 2 cases at Georgia Tech, one involving accusations of racism and the other involving an accusation of sexual misconduct. In the racism charge, a student accused members of a fraternity of hurling racist insults at her. Jonathan Hawkins, the fraternity's attorney, testified that Georgia Tech investigators ignored evidence that showed the incident could not have occurred, including surveillance video showing the accuser walking past the fraternity without incident, and witnesses who were there that day and saw nothing. Given the lack of evidence and because Georgia Tech couldn't identify any individuals responsible, they punished the entire fraternity. The mother of the student accused of sexual misconduct also spoke. She told a story of her son helping a drunk woman home when she had lost her key. The accused student let the woman wait at his apartment until her roommate returned home to let her in, so that the woman wouldn't be alone outside in the cold. Sometime later, another young woman accused the student of holding the alleged victim against her will, despite text messages from the drunk woman thanking the accused student for his help. The text messages were not allowed as evidence in the hearing. Even the alleged victim didn't even believe she was the victim of anything. Yet, on the word of a third party, the accused student was suspended. Such accusations in kangaroo trials are becoming increasingly common on college campuses and illustrate the dire need for due process protections. Representative Earhart is taking a giant step forward and threatening to pull funding from colleges that don't protect their students. And, of course, our writer is Ash Shaw.
Way to go, Ash.
Yep,
There you go,
everybody should be
Ash.
familiar with Ash. She has been writing a lot about this stuff, I think, over the last 3 or 4 years.
No, we're not saying she's an MRA, though,
No, we are not.
because that would be horrible.
Horrifying! Horrifying.
You know, I think it's really interesting that it seems like what's happening in Georgia, to me, would be constituting a situation for university presidents there where they got, on one hand, they got the Obama administration saying if you extend due process to the accused on your campus, then we're going to remove your federal funding.
Georgia
And
was
now-
also the first state to pass a law saying that if you call for paternity testing, the kid isn't yours, you don't have to worry about the child support.
Yeah, that was Carnell Smith behind that legislation. But on the other hand, you've got the appropriations subcommittee head telling them that if they don't extend due process, that they're going to lose their funding. So it's like no matter what they do, they're going to lose their funding, which doesn't break my heart. Because it will force this argument to a head. But you got to eke out, I think, a little bit of compassion for university administrations who are now being told by 2 people, 2 different entities, one federal, one state level, that hold the purse strings, that if you do what the state tells you, the federal government will take your money, and if you do what the federal government tells you to do, that the state will take your money.
I have absolutely no compassion for any of these motherfuckers at all. None. Because I saw only a spattering of professors and administrators nationwide say anything when that Dear Colleague letter came out. What those motherfuckers should have done was raise their voices all at one time and collectively told Washington to go suck a dick and like it. But they didn't. Instead, what they did was they hunkered down in their little fucking holes like a bunch of scared asshats and continued to suck off that tea. We love you. What's due process? So, fuck them. fuck them all. Bulldoze the shit out of them. It's time for them to feel the fucking pain.
I agree with James.
Are you sure about that, James? You sound rather ambivalent.
I'm serious. I'm tired of it.
It's hard.
Really,
it's hard
really
to argue with that. It's hard to argue with that, given that you're right. The correct thing for university officials to have done on receipt of the Dear Colleague letter would have been to call a national press conference as an organization of university professors and denounce the president for the order. They did no such thing.
No.
Academicians always have been cowards. They are more interested in cocktail parties and tenure and their cushy little jobs than they've ever been in the students who are placed in their charge. So ultimately, I agree with you too, James. Fuck them.
Fuck them. And, you know, after that university, after some universities start feeling the pain, well, maybe they'll start moving back towards due process rights and actually stand up and say something. Until I see them standing up and really saying something as universities.
And what was the senator's name again? What was the state senator's name again?
State Representative Earl Earhart. That's Ehrhart.
Earl Earhart. Okay. That's a name I'm going to be digging into. Be interesting to see if this is reflective of maybe a little bit of change within the body politic. 10-1, he's a Republican.
No bet. I mean, I would love to see Democrats stand up against this stuff because they are supposed to be the liberal party. They're supposed to be the people, you know, the ACLU and all this. But no, they're the ones that are doing it. So, yep. I mean, you know, the world's gone completely upside down.
And speaking of that, where the fuck is the ACLU in the middle of all this? How can we have across the entire country university students getting kicked out, being deprived of civil liberties, yet the American Civil Liberties Union is nowhere to be seen?
Oh, I'll tell you where they are. They're sitting in the corner of the head office of NOW wearing bondage gear and a ball gag.
And liking it.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Yep. Well, at least a little bit of a wave is coming back in the other direction. This is, you're right, James, this is good news. It actually is. Somebody standing up for the right reasons and the right people for a change is quite interesting. I am going to be setting my Google alerts on this and going to dig into this story more, possibly do a video on it this week.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's going to take probably until the next fiscal year before we actually see any hubbub over it in the mainstream. If we see any hubbub over it in the mainstream, I'm pretty sure the rest of these motherfuckers will probably try to keep it as quiet as they possibly can.
And meanwhile, folks, please write Representative Earhart and ask him if he can't find some room in appropriations for bulldozers.
Let me ask a question here. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, the federal funding for these universities flows from the federal government to the state government and through the state government to the universities.
That's what I'm getting.
Okay. Well, then that opens up an interesting can of worms, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. In other words, what's happening here is a big old cock block.
Mm-hmm.
And even if some of these universities are getting some federal funding directly for one program or another, the states make up the majority of where that funding is coming from.
Well, gentlemen, don't be surprised if one of Obama's last acts in his presidency, I use that word loosely, is to abolish statehood and make us all one big happy family. We will be the United States of America.
Or it's a kingdom. It's a kingdom.
Yes, it is, or a
Wow.
fiefdom.
So much for 50 separate experiments, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. It's 50 separate, supposedly competing experiments or ideas that should be
50 shades of federalism at this point.
It's not working out. Okay, folks. Well, I've covered my news stories. Did you have anything you wanted to pull, Paul?
No, well, our main topic tonight is, as far as I'm concerned, is a bit of a news story, and it certainly is related to other news stories. I did want to say, and I'm embarrassed, I don't know why I have a block on this guy's name, but our gentleman to the north in Canada who just went on trial for making a tweet that hurt the feelings of a feminist has been found not guilty. And if either one of you can rescue me with his name, I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll just say that guy up there in Canada that is no longer getting fucked.
Gregory Allen Elliott.
Yes, thank you very much. Generic MRA, which whenever one of you said that. Well, you know, all you guys look alike, you know. Even the gingers.
It's the neckbeards, man.
Yes, it's the neckbeards. I'm looking at Jack's photo here, man. That beard's pretty impressive, but Jack looks different every time I meet him in person.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, sometimes, like in this picture, he looks like a lumberjack. In another picture, he looks like a serial killer. It's hard to say. But anyway, if you guys are ready, I want to move on to our interview with Jack Barnes and to talking about Clementine Ford, almost without question, one of the biggest sluts on the internet. And oh yeah, she's a feminist too, and she is living proof that there are trailer parks in Australia, and lots of them. She has Trailer Park Queen written all over her. She is the woman who got a guy fired from a hotel chain there for calling her a slut on the internet. And then, of course, when you dig into her Twitter history, you're hard-pressed to find somebody she hasn't called a slut. I know you find that hypocrisy shocking, but nonetheless, it is there for your inspection. There is in the announcement for this at avoicefromen.com, there are links to all of this substantiating what we're talking about. Clementine Ford has made it a habit to practice yellow journalism. She's made it a habit to bully people, and I think somebody out there, perhaps named Jack Barnes, was wondering what it would be like, what kind of Clementine we would see with people that she couldn't bully. And I've got to admit that I'm curious about that too. She's used to getting her way. With that, Jack procured legally and cleanly the domain name ClementineFord.com. And subsequently a website was built. It simply has a lot of articles and videos that have been produced about her in other places, all now put together in one nice little package. And there are links to other major media pieces about this woman's antics. And it is simply headed by the truth about Clementine Ford. And all these articles, to the best of my knowledge anyway, have been well vetted. Some of them are from A Voice for Men. There's others from other places like judgybits.com. But what they are is critiques of this woman's actions, her behavior, her views, her points of view. And in her initial reaction to this, once finding out about the website, she brought up the famous first words for a feminist, restraining order. As though she has a chance of getting one, or as though anybody would comply with any kind of orders that came up anyway. There is such a thing as free speech. I know it doesn't apply to employers. I'm sure that Clementine is welcome to to go to Jack's employer and try to get him fired. She's more than welcome to go to my employer and try to get me fired. But no, she's in a bit of a pickle with this because the website, as far as I know, is going to stay up. And with that, I won't bloviate anymore. I just want to ask you, Jack, did I get this correct? Did I miss up on something? So tell me what the deal is.
Yeah, you got everything perfect. There's a little more information that I've been able to find about Clementine Ford that is, well, it's par for the course. We know about the guy that she got fired for because this guy called her a slut on the internet. And you were right. She's called. You'd be hard pressed to find someone she hasn't called a slut, including herself. There's a video of tweets that she has made where she calls herself a slut, says something about I need to go buy a short skirt or some short shorts so I can slut it up.
Oh, God, Clementine, please don't. I've seen your tits. I don't want to see any more of you.
She also has gotten 3 high school boys suspended from their high school for something they said to her on the internet. She went directly to the high school and reported them and got them suspended. She also was somewhere in a building waiting on an elevator, and there were 2 other gentlemen there with her, and they were having a conversation. Clementine Ford eavesdropped on that conversation, which, granted, they did not have the a reasonable expectation of privacy in a public building, but she overheard something in that conversation she didn't like, and so she confronted the guy. Well, his friend standing there basically told her, go fuck yourself. This is none of your business. Stay out of it. Not in those words, but that's basically what he said. So she snapped a photo of this guy, put his picture on Facebook with this long piece about what he said and how she disapproved of it. Well, Facebook or someone, don't know exactly who, I think Clementine Ford may have done it after she figured out that she could get her ass sued. Anyway, the picture was taken down, but as far as I know, the post is still there. Now, this is just some of the things that this woman has done. Back during the last political cycle in Australia, a candidate got elected for the high office in her country that she didn't particularly care too much for. So she made up these T-shirts that said, "Fuck Tony Abbott," and that's the guy's name. She put out that something, I'm trying to remember her exact words. Now, this article is a mainstream media article. It's linked over there on ClementineFord.com, where she said that I think she said the majority of the funding from the profits from these T-shirts would go to help the programs that Tony Abbott was going to cut funding for. Well, when she was pressed on this, it come to find out that only like 20% of the proceeds. So she was dishonest, or
no.
Yeah, really. And there's other antics of hers that she has done that can be found over there on ClementineFord.com. Now, the website, I will say this, the website is not finished yet. It's still under construction. We're still adding content to the website. It's not done yet. One of these days, it will get to the point where we'll be adding something just every once in a while. It's not going to be like a voicefrommen.com, like your website, Paul, where there's articles added every day. No. One of these days, it will slow down. But my intentions for building this website were to give people a place to go and find out who and what Clementine Ford is and what she represents.
Well, I can only imagine Clementine Ford up on a podium in Berlin saying, "Mr. Barnes, take that website down." So what is your response to that? I mean, in all fairness, in all seriousness, some people might say that this is crossing a line, that you have appropriated the name of a public figure. what is your response to that? Do you?
Well, for as long as the men's human rights movement, the anti-feminist movement, and let me inject this into the conversation real quick. ClementineFord.com is not a men's rights website. It is, if you want to put a label on it, an anti-feminist website. But anyway, for as long as feminist and men's rights advocates and anti-feminist and anti-social justice warriors have been arguing back and forth on the internet, there's been unwritten rules, certain things you didn't do, okay? One of them being you did not go get someone fired from their job for what they said to you on the internet because they disagree with you. That was a line that even most feminists respected until they started losing. Now they're losing and they're becoming more vicious, they're lashing out, and they're breaking these rules. So what we find ourselves in, this is no longer a boxing match with a referee. This is a street fight, and the feminists just pulled the brass knuckles. Now we can continue to fight by the rules like it's a boxing match and lose, or we can pull a knife. Figuratively speaking, of course.
You know, David Futrell is going to forget that qualification you just offered.
Oh, fuck that fat son of a bitch.
I know, I was going to say, he probably looked at that image with Get Fuck Sunrise that Clementine Ford tweeted and looked down and said, bitch ain't got nothing on me.
Yeah, I call him Mammoth Boobs. You know, he's got 300. The mammoth used to be man boobs. I call him Mammoth Boobs. But anyway.
Well, let me offer this, Jack. I look at this a little bit differently. I don't see this as a knife when the opponent using brass knuckles. I see this honestly as fair game. This is political speech. The website is indeed about Clementine Ford. She did not bother or seem to think that having her name owned in the form of a domain was worth the $10 a year to do it. Well, it's $10 American. I guess that's about $350 a year Australian. She didn't think it was worth it. Didn't invest in herself in that way. It was available, and you've got it to make a statement about ClementineFord.com. That sounds very suspiciously like free political speech to me. It isn't like that you put up a website where it was a porn site or something like that with, you know, photoshopped images of Clementine Ford on naked bodies that actually are sexually attractive, and peddled that off as porn. And it isn't like that you posted lies about her or anything like that. You've simply taken her on the record and put it up there for people to see, and also brought in a lot of commentary from people who have a lot of things to say about her political activities. So I'm not buying that there was a line that was actually crossed here. This sounds like free political speech to me, and it sounds like actually a pretty mild response, given that people like Clementine Ford are going after kids at school and people's jobs and things like that. I think this is a very mild response, and I'm taking pleasure in the fact that, and I know she'll probably end up hearing this, which is really good, there is nothing she can do about it. Absolutely nothing. She can whine all day. The site ain't going anywhere, folks. Anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong when I said, you know, pull a knife. This is free political speech. She has made herself, by her own choosing, into a public figure. She has no right to demand that no one ever criticize her. That it doesn't work that way. What I meant by pulling a knife is that now we're going to start applying social pressure, because now it's not just an article on A Voice for Men criticizing her. It's not just an article on Judgy Bitch criticizing her for her feminist beliefs. There's a website dedicated to the criticism of her political views. That people
and her behavior.
Yes, and her behavior. And people can easily find that. now. Whereas, no offense to you, Paul, but it was that people had to actually dig to find articles about Clementine, on your website. They were not posted on the front page
I am
every single
offended.
day.
I'm terribly offended. That's horrifying.
Yeah, but we're going to start applying social pressure. And let me say this. Many MRAs, not just myself, have noticed the uptick in anti-feminist speech on social media, in the mainstream media, and just in society in general. A lot of us have been thinking, well, wait a minute, where is this all coming from? Because it's not like people just wake up one morning and go, oh, I'm an anti-feminist now, or I'm a non-feminist now. No, this has been there for a long time. It's just people are finding their voice. That was proven to be the case when Gregory Allen Elliott was found not guilty. Twitter exploded.
Yep.
And feminists had nowhere to run and nowhere to hide, except a lot of them locked their profiles and just left Twitter for a few days. Because every time they raised their head, there was 10 or 20 people going, you're full of shit. Even I think it was today or yesterday, I saw an article from Amanda Hess on Slate, just basically saying, Twitter won't protect women. The courts won't protect women. And when she posted that on her Twitter account, there was like 10 people that says, no, that's not what this is about. So for a long time, we thought that these people were there, and now we've been proven right, that these people are there. They just, one, they're either afraid to speak up. Two, they either go, it's just a bunch of, feminists. They don't really have any power. There's no need to even get involved in this argument. They hear the word feminist, they just roll their eyes and go on about their day. Well, these people now are starting to speak out.
And like feminists do, when people challenge them on their beliefs and won't back down, feminists run. They do it every time, and I can't say I blame them, because I'll tell you, if I look up and I see a bull's asshole and it's starting to bulge, I'm leaving.
Yeah, but these people have started speaking out, and I've been thinking for a while now, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I've been thinking for a while now, okay, how do we use this? How do we use this to our advantage? And it is, James, I believe you've said it many times, our job is to polarize the battlefield. And I was thinking, okay, how do we use this to polarize the battlefield? This group of people who are the silent majority, who are non-feminist or anti-feminist. One way we can do that is by showing them, wait a minute, this is what feminism actually is. It's not a bunch of bra-burning, women who don't shave their legs. Okay, that's not what this is what feminism is. This is what they believe, and this is the kind of power they have. We do that, and we're going to increase what we've already done.
In that light, fantastic new video from Judgy Bitch up on her channel now about this very thing. Strongly suggest it's in the Q&A via film. It will be up there within a couple of days. But if you go to Judgy Bitch's channel, as a matter of fact, I'll stick that thing in the low bar after the program tonight, so you can get quick access to it. Fantastic video. Breaking down and first destroying the illusions that feminists have, that supposedly equity feminists and moderate feminists and whatever, eco-feminists, bullshit feminists have about what feminism actually is and what the ethos represents, which is, if you look at what somebody on Tumblr says, yeah, it all sounds good sometimes. Oh yeah, it's all about equality, blah blah. All that stuff sounds great on the surface, but Janet actually goes through the literature and very, very methodically describes for everyone exactly what feminists have actually advocated since the advent of gender feminism in the late 1960s. So that is well worth a watch. If you ever want to argue with a feminist on who's telling you that you don't understand feminism and here's what feminism really is, just don't even bother arguing with them. Just send them Janet's video and let them argue with that.
Yeah, it's an awesome video. Yeah, this whole deal about polarizing the battlefield. We've done an excellent job so far of arguing with feminists on social media, making YouTube videos, making our own blogs, of arguing on Twitter, putting memes on Facebook. All of this stuff has gotten us to where we are today. But I do not believe that alone will carry us all the way. We need to step up the game. We need to start taking the fight to feminists more than what we are now. And with that in mind, I started buying domain names of feminists. ClementineFord.com is just the first website.
Oh! Oh!
And by the way, most of you know what, after Clementine Ford got that guy fired for calling her a slut, there was a couple other feminists who decided to launch a campaign to name and shame everyone that criticized Clementine Ford for doing that. It wasn't long. I mean, I was part of it because I put my comment on there. I was like, hey, Clementine, you're a slut. Now get me fired, or something like that, right? It wasn't long until anyone who disagreed with what she did, no matter how polite, well, let me take that back, any man who disagreed, they ignored the women who disagreed. It was just the men. They contacted, I saw them tweet one guy's employer and say, hey, is this the guy you want working for you? Look what he's doing. And he did not say anything remotely violent, promoting violence. He didn't even use foul language. He just disagreed with her. Okay. When I saw that, there was two women who basically what they did is they worked up a bunch of their mindless minion feminists and sent them off on a tirade, and they just sat back and watched, trying to keep their hands clean. Their names are Carrie Sackville and Tracy Spicer. Now, Carrie Sackville writes for some publications down there in Australia.
Oh, Carrie Sackville has issues with being called a slut too.
Oh yes, she does. Yes, she does. And Tracy,
is it funny? I mean, honestly, I got to interrupt and ask here.
Yeah.
How funny is it that you got a feminist trying to get people fired named fucking Sackville?
Yeah. I believe I'd have to change my name, But yeah, exactly. But Tracy Spicer is like a main news anchor for one of the big television stations down there, if I'm not mistaken. I know she's on television because I've read where she left one television station under less than, how should I put this? She
ideal?
pulled a typical, less than ideal. Yeah, she pulled a typical feminist trick and got thrown out on her ass. Okay. Well, when I saw them doing this, I went and bought their domain names as well. Now it depends on Tracy Spicer has stayed pretty quiet after the whole Facebook thing of naming and shaming. Well, excuse me, it was Twitter. She stayed pretty quiet. Okay, that's fine. If she wants to keep her head down, I'm not going to put up a website about her, but I am going to keep an eye on her, and I want to do the same thing for Carrie Sackville. If Carrie Sackville starts acting like a cunt, like Clementine Ford, she'll have a website about her as well.
Well, Sackville did apparently enjoy the attention. All of the articles, including the one you wrote on Sackville, Jack, are automatically tweeted from thevoiceformen.com. And she showed up with an entourage of flying monkeys in reaction to that article on my Twitter thread. I think she enjoyed, and she said as much, that she enjoyed the attention. Apparently that didn't extend to the guy on the highway.
No.
That you wrote about. The guy on the highway that I'm referring to, folks, is the one that asked her if she was a slut on some main highway there while she was on her way to work or way back or something. Let me veer off just for a moment. I want to get back to this thing with the additional domain names and plans for this, because it's just juicy stuff. But also, before we get all the way through this, I don't want to forget that an interesting part of the Twitter reaction from Ford on this was that somebody there suggested in that thread that she check with WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, who is responsible for, at least as far as it concerns participating nations, which is most of them that have any sort of internet infrastructure, that she check into the guidelines. And then a representative of WIPO themselves showed up in the thread and suggested that she go check in their guidelines, and that was tweeted directly to her and one other person. I took that one. I thought it was kind of unusual that somebody from WIPO, when their ID, their user ID for Twitter was not a part of this. It was just WIPO had been put in text in one of the tweets, that they showed up to offer that. I went into the guidelines. It made me think they had a bias. So anyway, I went into the guidelines and I read them many times, looking for any way that even like the sleaziest of lawyers and somebody who is so greasy that they spin like David Futrell could interpret these guidelines along the lines of your being in violation of them, and I couldn't find a way into that logic. There is no WIPO violation in any of this. There is no what WIPO determines as bad intent for use of a domain. None of this qualifies. All of their stuff is about people trying to scam money, misrepresenting themselves as somebody else, nothing along the lines of what Jack has already done. So there's no WIPO violation, ergo there is not likely to be any restraining order. I know that you saw those tweets. What was your reaction to WIPO stepping in sort of and saying, here, look through our stuff?
It makes me believe that somebody contacted them through, not in public. In other words, if it a private tweet or an email or something like that, and made a complaint that way, and they kind of went, oh shit, and went over there and said, here, take a look at our our rules, and if you think you've got a complaint, file a complaint. That's kind of the way I took it. Now maybe I'm being too charitable.
Well, and maybe I'm being too harsh.
But that's the way I took it. And, it's kind of like they were going, okay, here's the rules, read them, now shut up, go away, leave us alone. It's like they were trying to appease them without actually giving them anything valuable. Again, maybe I'm being too charitable.
And maybe I'm being too harsh. James, what do you think? Why don't you break the deadlock here?
Oh, no.
Oh, shit, man. God damn it. I'm losing my touch.
No, look, these, I've got the distinct impression that they're going to try. And they're going to try through a court of law, and we'll see whether or not things work out. But, hey, the more they put up a fight, the more publicity we can put on them.
Well, maybe Clementine will do a crowdfunder for her legal war chest.
Imagine that. Yeah, she might very well.
Well, I'm not going to give up without a fight.
Well, and I have a feeling that there's certain people out here in the world. One of them's name rhymes with Paul Elam. That will fight right alongside you.
It's going to be very difficult for her. I've got backup plans in place in case she tries something. And, it's going to be very fruitless. Okay, she's going to spend a lot of money, and she's not going to get anything out of it.
Oh, man, you shouldn't have given that one away.
Well, yeah, bleed her dry, yeah, but the thing about it is we wouldn't be bleeding her dry. She's going to go to her supporters. She's got some financial backers, or She's got some political candidates that are supporting her. I've seen this. She's got one guy who is the head of a charity there in Australia, who's very supportive of her. So that she's got some important people who are very supportive of her racist, sexist views. These people really don't want me to go start digging into their backgrounds, especially not the guy that has the charity, and me to get my hands on his financial statements, see how much money he makes from this charity that he's supposed to be helping people. This political candidate does not want the attention. Trust me, she has got like 200 followers on Twitter. She's not very popular, okay, but she's running for a political office. So, this is a political thing. We see it all the time here in the U.S. I mean, heck, we're in the middle of a presidential cycle or election, right? They're digging up dirt on each other. They're slinging mud back and forth, on political candidates. So this whole thing cannot work out well for Clementine Ford and her supporters. The best thing they can do is to be quiet and not give this any attention. But that's, James, you may be right. That may not be.
You did not just tell a woman to be quiet. Holy crap, dude.
Well, I tell you what, if he didn't make it clear enough, I will. Clementine, your best option is just keep your fucking mouth shut and walk away. That's a matter of fact. It's the only sensible option you got is to shut up and go away.
Let me inject this into the conversation again. Today on Facebook, she posted an article about the snowstorms that we've had here in the United States over on the East Coast. And this article said that only the female senators are the only ones that...
Oh, we lost Jack.
Yep, looks like we lost Jack. I had heard something similar, that during the snowstorm only some female senators showed up for work or whatever. I don't know how true that is. Hopefully Jack will be back soon.
I just sent him another invite. I'll send them, Jack, if you can hear this, I'll be sending invites about every 5 minutes until we get you back.
There it is.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. You're just like any other male that won't show up for work.
Well, okay. Where did we get to?
Well, James was talking about that actually it was one female senator that showed up for work when others didn't. In other words, there was only one senator stupid enough to ignore every bit of advice that was being broadcast all over television, which was don't go driving in this stuff.
Okay. Well,
probably the men were out shoveling snow.
Yeah. Okay. Clementine posted this and said men suck. She put that over the top of this article. Men suck. She got her ass handed to her in the comments below that post on Facebook by her own supporters. And she had to play nice with them. She was being very nice and very polite. She edited it and said, okay, these men suck. And she was like, well, I don't understand what the problem is. It was just a joke. And they went, it was a sexist joke. Now, you are all the time talking about sexist jokes against women. This is a double standard. Well, it's different because it's against men. Well, no, it's not. And she was being very nice. It was the first time in the world I've ever seen Clementine Ford nice, but she was being very nice.
That's indicative of a much larger thing going on right now that ties into what you were saying about the rise in anti-feminist voices. There is a crack happening in the sisterhood, and we're watching it now. Misandry does not enjoy the popularity that it used to.
No, it doesn't. You're absolutely right. And they were calling her out on her double standard. And she, like I said, she had to edit that and say, okay, these men suck. And
So she had to actually take her words back.
yes, and she was being nice. Where you've seen the tweets of Clementine Ford,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's over on ClementineFord.com. Her normal thing is go fuck off or fuck you or stuff like that. No, she was being nice to these people, so it's already having the effect that we want it to have. Clementine Ford is having to tone it down and start acting like a decent human being, start acting like an adult.
Oh
It's
man,
already
I'm really worried because the Clementine Ford has to go any length of time without posting "men suck." She may go and just have like seizures from the withdrawal.
yeah. Yeah, she's a it's it's already having the desired effect. She's already toning down her Twitter account. She's not posting a whole lot, and she's being a lot more civil than what she used to be, because she doesn't want to give me any more ammunition than what I already have. And what she doesn't know is I haven't posted everything that I have yet. But this whole thing it's working to our benefit. Now, what needs to happen in order for this to be successful is for everyone listening. I'm asking for your help. No, I'm not asking for money. ClementineFord.com will never take any donations whatsoever. I will never make not one red cent off that website. There will be no advertisements.
He'll lose money.
Yeah, I will lose money. It costs me money to have that website up. I will never make a dime off of it. I will never take any money for it. So, Clementine Ford, if you're thinking about coming after me because I'm using your name to make money, think again. I'm not making a penny. But what needs to happen is that people need to start linking to this website through their own blogs, their YouTube videos, whatever. Drive up the traffic to the site so that when someone Googles Clementine Ford, that is the first website they come to.
And in a matter of time, that is exactly what will happen. Is that every time somebody Googles Clementine Ford, ClementineFord.com has primacy in some way. So as the longer it sits there, the closer it's going to get to the top. We've linked to it from A Voice for Men, but if you link to it from your blogs out there, if you put links in your YouTube channels to videos that you do, any other place out there, the more backlinks go into that website, the more it's going to elevate ClementineFord.com to the top, and eventually it will be the first website back. It'll be the first #1 Google return for everybody that does a query on her name. So link it quickly and often and regularly.
I've got to say this. I really don't want anything bad to happen to Clementine Ford. I don't want her to lose her job as a writer for a mainstream media publications. I don't want any of that to happen to her, even though she is one of the most disgusting people in the feminist movement right now. I still don't want this to happen to her. But if she's going to continue to support the ideology of feminism, if she's going to continue with this overt prejudice against people based on their race, their gender, their sex, their sexual orientation, you name it, if she's going to continue to do that, I'm going to continue to call her out on it. And if she ends up having to work, for the food service industry, the housekeeping industry, or the sex industry in order to feed herself,
Oh, come on, Jack. No, why'd you have to do that last one?
Well, yeah.
You gotta ask yourself. Is she sex positive?
There's no such thing
Not
as
trying to
sex
be an
positive.
asshole here, but
No, you got to ask yourself if she's sex capable.
No, I don't want to ask myself that.
Now, I got to tell you, I'm going to disagree with you on that one too.
Okay.
I do hope that she loses her livelihood out of this, and it's not out of malice against her personally. But we've had a system in place for going on 50 years now of bigots operating wide out and open in front of everybody, holding prestigious positions, um, working at universities, working in the media, having very prominent positions in influencing things like, prosecuting somebody for a tweet. These things have really moved beyond the pale a long time ago. And I think we need examples out there of actual, real, tangible repercussions that affect the lives of these bigots who have been allowed to operate in the open. I think ultimately it will save a lot of people from losing their jobs because once feminists see that open practice of hatred, especially when you have the professional persona of a journalist, for pity's sake, once they see that there is a risk associated with that, just like there is for anybody else. I mean, if we had a journalist for the Wall Street Journal wrote an article lamenting the end of slavery in the United States, their life expectancy professionally would be about 10 seconds, and that would be about 9 seconds too long in my book. So I disagree with that. I do want her to lose her job. It is not out of malice on my part. It's not just because I want to see her punished. But what I want to see is for feminism, misandry, and all the things that come with that ideology to be recognized for what it is, which is bigotry. It's hatred. And right now it's being practiced wide open with impunity by anybody who wants to, simply because it's still popular to trash out men and boys and to ignore their issues and to treat them like they're less than human. And so I hope one of these days, either that or maybe she'll change her ways, I don't know, but I hope that one of these days that the reaction she got on her Facebook page to posting men suck starts getting translated at her work into consequences that are just as well, where she has to start mending her ways or face the possibility of working at a car wash. And I mean every word of that.
Well, okay, I can agree with that last part. If she doesn't change her ways, then, and the public is turning against feminism, we already know this. We've seen it happen firsthand. If she doesn't change her ways, she will lose her job through social pressure. But if she changes and goes to start writing about something else and quits advocating for feminism and quits, with all of the prejudice, then I'm perfectly fine with her keeping her job.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if she changes, the idea is for change. The idea, like I said, it's not retribution, but it is to promote change. If she changes, I got no issue with her, but she seems far too pathological at this point to anticipate there's going to be any kind of substantive change in who she is. This is a woman with serious psychological issues. She does hate men. To her, men do suck just for existing, just for living. They deserve her ire and her condemnation. I don't see that changing, but hey, anything's possible. I was once identified as a feminist. So I suppose anything is possible, much to my shame.
Well, you're right. She does, hate men. She has a podcast called The Hatred of Men and Boys Hour, or Misandry Hour.
Yeah.
You can't, there's no way that she can hide from the fact that she does actually hate men. And we're not talking about hate men like someone who thinks that male genital mutilation is okay simply because they don't get it, they don't understand. No, that's a whole different form than what we're talking about here. We're talking about Agent Orange files level hatred.
Yep.
Okay, we're talking about she actually said that in order that she wants men to lose their rights. She actually said that in a tweet. It's over on ClementineFord.com.
I saw it.
You know, she actually said that. There was no, you can't misinterpret it. She actually came out and said it. So.
Yep,
Yeah,
and look, this is somebody who way out in the open. Look, when the Agent Orange files came out, these people weren't way out in the open, but she is, and
Some of them are now.
so I will tell you what, a lot of those people have crawled into some holes and have never come back out. They have gone
Hi,
in.
Pamela.
They have gone into hiding, and as far as I know, a few people lost their jobs over that.
really?
Well,
No, I didn't know that.
I know that Pamela O'Shaughnessy's writing career has gone straight into the tank.
It has.
She's not getting anything done there, and she was actually a fairly successful novelist for Simon and Schuster. And since she was outed for her position on eugenics and her disgusting hatred of everything male, she has gone into the tanks. And I'm happy that that's happened for the same reasons that I'd like to see Clementine Ford lose her job, is that when these incidents start racking up, feminists who are inherently as cowardly as it gets will lay off the misandry and might actually start talking or walking what they talk for a change, which is equity.
That's the idea. Me personally, I want to see the day where feminists gather together to protest, and it's just like if the Ku Klux Klan had a rally. For every one of them, there's 10 people gathered around behind a barricade screaming their righteous indignation at them for being feminists. That's the day I want to see.
Works for me, but unfortunately, or fortunately, as may be the case, the average feminist does not have the cojones of the average Klansman. I mean, call Klansmen what you will. I think they're misguided, pathetic fucks in a lot of ways. But you got to admit one thing: if you're willing to go somewhere with a significant minority population and put on a white sheet and a hood, you're not a coward. You may be a misguided, hateful idiot, but you're not a coward. I don't think feminists will go anywhere where they feel that they won't be popular and coddled.
You're probably right. You're probably right there. But yeah, like I said a while ago, ClementineFord.com is not the only domain name that I now own. There are more. There are several more, and there's going to be even more than that.
Boy, why do I get the sense that there's a bunch of people going to look for their name?
Well,
right about now. Of course, it's too late.
Yeah, for a lot of you, it is too late. Now, I'm not going to say who right now because I don't want them to get a heads up. But there are a lot of feminists who are going to experience the same kind of social pressure that Clementine Ford is now experiencing. People are just not willing to put up with this anymore. Society is progressing. We're moving forward. Now I know that that word progress or whatever has a negative connotation with a lot of MRAs because of the way a lot of people use it to justify things like feminism. But we're moving to a place where things like race doesn't matter. No one cares. Where gender doesn't matter. No one cares. Where sexual orientation, where gender identity, none of that matters anymore. No one gives a shit. We're moving to a society where it's everyone's an individual, and they're judged as such. And in that society, feminism is not going to be welcome.
Absolutely right, because we did not get to this point with victim identity politics. That is not why that we've made progress. And I don't mind using the word if people want to say, oh, look at Paul being a leftist. No, what else? The fact of the matter is that we have made progress in that area, but it's been in spite of identity politics, not because of them.
Mm-hmm. Look at the way social justice warriors have been treated in the past 4 or 5 months. Look at what's going on in what is that, Missoula University in Missouri, with those black students wanting to be segregated from the white students, and look at all of the people that are going, what the fuck is wrong with you? And these black students are nothing. There's not the majority of black students on that campus. I don't know that for a fact, but it's reasonably certain. It's a very small minority.
I would be shocked if it was the majority. I've heard those ideas before. They were from people like George Wallace and David Duke.
Yeah, exactly. But society, not only did they go, what the fuck is wrong with you people, they made fun of them. I mean, there was I forget where it was, maybe one of you guys can remember, but there was a group of white students got together and started in other words, the polar opposite, and they done it as making fun, as satirical. They issued their list of demands, like we want the square to be renamed Napoleon Bonaparte Square and all this kind of stuff, just to make fun of these people. Social justice warriors are losing, and feminists right along with them.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder where the line is between those two, because they seem to be interchangeable in most cases. I mean, I know that in the purest sense, that if you're talking about social justice warrior, you get more into the race relations area, things like that. But for the most part, feminists are really actually riding the social justice wave so they can co-opt it and make everything about gender, which they do with pretty much everything.
Yeah, and this has just happened today. I just saw this today. They are attacking a gay academician, a gay university professor. Or no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I misspoke there. He's attacking them. He's calling them out. On the same day, everydayfeminism.com posts an article claiming lesbians are misogynists because they objectify women. They're eating each other. The feminists are eating each other.
I think the term was they internalize the male gaze. So listen to this. Listen to this. Even when you've got a group of women who don't give a fuck about men, literally and figuratively, okay, as far as sexuality is concerned, somehow or another, it's still toxic masculinity that makes them internalize the male gaze and then turn that gaze on other women. That gaze, G-A-Z-E.
Well, isn't that special? It's hard to know what to say. I mean, I still have an awe sometimes that these are the kinds of questions that we force ourselves, we lower ourselves to having to make commentary on, because the society has gone nuts. What university was it recently where they were saying that the cafeteria food, if it wasn't high quality and authentically ethnic, that it was cultural appropriation and disrespecting, like they expected high grade sushi in the school cafeteria, or it was an insult to the Japanese people. All I can see is that social justice, as it were, is really just a system of thoughts and beliefs that comes back to serve the interests of the children of privilege, which by and large are young, white, not always white, but young, white, university-age females. And they can turn, I didn't like the sushi, into a social issue. Why? Not because they give a fuck about the Japanese people or Japanese culture. It's because they wanted better sushi and didn't want to go pay for it.
Yep.
You got me.
Well, and I saw on Facebook today that feminists have come out with a study supposedly saying that if you do not have an interracial relationship, if you do not have sex with someone outside of your own race, then you are a racist. Now,
Well,
I'm sorry, but aren't there a lot of black people who like to date people, other black people who like to, to stay within their own race when it comes to their interpersonal relationships?
Yes, and it's horrifying.
Yeah, exactly. There we go again. Now they're attacking gay men, they're attacking lesbians, and they're attacking every race out there, just every one of them.
Well, what they're really getting to, Jack, ultimately what this really boils down to is that they want attractive heterosexual males to have to be attracted to fat, smelly, pimple-covered, gross bitches with hairy armpits and legs. Because that's what feminism is really about in that sense, in the sexual sense. It is about a bunch of obese women, a whole lot of them unattractive women. Look at Jacqueline Friedman, and look how much focus she puts on stuff like fat shaming and fat acceptance. And it's not that, I mean, there's something to be said. There's a lot of hype about body fat, and some of it is like really, dramatic, hyperbolic crap about a few extra pounds on somebody being terrible and dooming them to death, which is totally not true. But it isn't about health. It's about sexual attraction. And what you're getting out of these people, and what you're getting out of, and it starts with stuff like race and everything else, will eventually come back to a bunch of outliers when it comes to weight and physical appearance, wanting to feel physically attractive. And so they end up being a combination of sex negative, but it's okay if you find me attractive, if you worship fat, ugly women. It's psychopathology on a stick, served up as ideology, and you're seeing it across the board in about 100 different ways. That is just, it's worse by far than the cafeteria sushi.
Well, there's one more aspect to this. Okay, used to you were subjected to this propaganda that, okay, look beneath the body, look at the person, okay, which I have no problem with that, of saying, okay, yeah, you've got a few extra pounds, but I like who you are as a person more than I care about those few extra pounds.
Right.
Personally, I think that's a good idea for people to be that way. The problem is when we look at feminists and we look past the body at the personality looks worse than the body, and for a lot of them, that's saying something. And so they have, and they want us to look at their personality, and we're going, yeah, we looked at the personality, it looks like shit too.
Yeah,
so
can you imagine Jacqueline Friedman saying, I want you to love me for my personality?
Can you imagine Clementine Ford saying that?
Oh, yeah.
And so that didn't work, so now they've got to move on to something else. Okay, you can't judge my body. You've got to love me for who I am, and no matter if I'm big as a house, you still got to love me and be sexually attracted to me because I say so.
Yep, even if I'm big as a house, covered with acne, and if my personality is like a pit viper, you have to love me, you have to find me attractive. And guess what? You can try to socially engineer people all you want to, and that shit will never happen.
No.
But I do agree with you. There are, I've known women in my life who had some extra weight and who were not the prettiest girls in the world, but I did find their personalities, their intelligence, their way of thinking very attractive, and ergo, I ultimately found them attractive. But it was because there was something attractive there. It wasn't because I was ordered to.
I've made this statement before, and a lot of women hate it when I say this, and feminists especially, but the more beautiful a girl is, chances are the more shitty her personality.
Yep.
Well, you know, I've seen that. But back to Clementine Ford.
Well, we were already talking about ugly women.
Well, this
That should have been speaking of Clementine Ford.
yeah. Oh yeah. This woman has been consistent with these views since at least early 2012. That I've seen her writing about this stuff, and she has only gotten more rabid since.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can trace a lot of her work all the way back to around late 2011, early 2012, about the same time that the Agent Orange files came out, as when we really started seeing her pop up on the scene. And she wanted to write a huge expose on misogyny and the men's rights movement and all the related spheres. And I forget which online publication she was working with at the time. But it was not very well received, and I think she had maybe 2 or 3 parts. I'd have to go back through some archives and see what I could find. But her arguments were so damn emotional, so damn childish, not based in fact, and she will not look at a fact and actually admit it to be so. She won't, because it will destroy her narrative. It will destroy her livelihood. And I think the woman is just too full of fucking vitriol to let facts stand in the way. So whatever you do with this website, expect retaliation. And expect it to increase the longer you keep the website up. I see a lawsuit coming. I see multiple takedown attempts coming. And I see her getting any number of her friends to help out in the process. So this will be interesting as you document this journey, because this is exactly what you're asking for. As you document this journey and pass it off to people who can archive it and publish it elsewhere, just in case. Just what types of names are going to pop up other than hers? And yeah, you gave a couple already, but I can almost promise you we're going to end up getting the names of judges, the names of lawyers, the names of community organizers. We're going to end up getting more teachers. We're going to end up getting more authors. I can almost promise you that the more she screams, the more we're going to be able to name the people who are backing her.
And there's another aspect to this, James.
Gentlemen, I got to interrupt. Our time is nearly up. I just want to remind everybody, and I've got appointments to get to. Hate to be rude, but I can sign off and let you guys continue if you like.
We'll go ahead and let Jack finish out here.
Okay, I'll make this quick. Another thing these people need to realize is our voice is a whole hell of a lot bigger than what it used to be when well, even 2 or 3 years ago. We have a lot more public exposure. So these people need to think about that before they try to pull any stunts.
And more on the way.
More on the way. Exactly. Stay the course, man. Just stay the course.
I have a feeling he will.
Yep. And folks, I guess with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Jack, thank you for coming on and letting us know about this. And everyone, always remember to take the red pill.